Cases of colds, flus, and respiratory disease are getting ready for their annual spike. The CDC predicts that flu and COVID-19 cases across the country will spike in the coming weeks. Right now, the latest Nevada hospital report says that hospitalization rates across the state from these cases are not overwhelming at this time. However, medical experts say that the viruses behind colds and influenza usually peak from December through February. Doctors recommend people get their COVID and flu shots now, citing how time to bolster protection is running out.
It takes about 2 weeks for your body to produce enough antibodies to provide protection after an immunization.
Another respiratory disease known as walking pneumonia is also spreading rapidly among children. The CDC first warned of an increase in these infections in October, and the trends have not improved.